This podcast is brought to you by Deepbridge Capital LLP. Deepbridge is authorised and regulated by the Financial Conduct Authority. Please note that investments discussed are both illiquid and high risk and won't be suitable for all investors and should be considered as part of a diversified portfolio. The content of this podcast should not be construed as financial or taxation advice. We recommend investors seek appropriate professional financial advice. Any views expressed may no longer be current and may have already been acted upon. Welcome to this Deepbridge Discovery Podcast. My name's Andrew Aldridge. I'm partner and head of marketing at Deepbridge Capital. The aim of these podcasts is to bring to life the people and the companies behind Deepbridge Capital. I'm delighted today to be joined by Paul Colbon, who is founder and CEO of Liverpool ChiroChem, or known as LCC. So Paul, thank you very much for joining us. How are you?
I'm very well, Andrew. How are you?
I'm very good, mate. I'm very good, thank you. So starting at the beginning, can you just kind of tell us a little bit of background to LCC, how it was founded, why you started it, kind of the market you're looking to solve, that kind of thing?
Yeah, absolutely. So we co-founded the company in 2014, Andrew. So it's 8 years ago now, if you can believe it. We both
sadly I can. I remember seeing you, so yeah, I can.
Yeah, we were both a bit younger and
absolutely
possibly slightly more handsome back then. But no, I had finished my PhD at the Department of Chemistry in the University of Liverpool in 2012. And I was very fortunate that there was a cancer research company starting off in the Royal Hospital just down the road in Liverpool. Okay. So I handed in my CV there before I graduated. Fortunately got the position. Spent a couple of years then up to 2014 doing some cancer research. And I was essentially a customer of the company that I was about to found. So okay. I was purchasing commercially available chemical components to do my research to discover new cancer drugs. So cancer drugs and pharmaceutical agents are made up of components the same way anything is, like a car, for example. So as I was learning how to do cancer research, one of my former colleagues in my research group at the University of Liverpool discovered some really fantastic chemical technologies that provide access to a wide variety of these novel components that can be used to piece together to discover and develop new drugs, not only for oncology, but they're non-therapeutic specific, Andrew, which means they can be used in different combinations with other commercially available components to make a wide range of small molecule drugs, whether that be for oncology, respiratory illnesses, central nervous system, neurology. So I saw that opportunity when I went for a coffee with my old colleagues in my research group. They told me about the technology they discovered, and putting two and two together, I could see the opportunity that presented itself, because coincidentally, Andrew, there was a real shift in pharmaceutical activities in the R&D space at that time. So the pharma R&D community has suffered diminished returns over the last 10 to 15 years. For every pound spent on R&D, they used to be getting a 20% return. And now they're only getting about a 2% return, 2 to 5%. It started to rise a little bit again, but essentially the regulatory bodies continually raise the bar on new drug approvals, right? They need to be better, more targeted, more selective. If they're they need to kill the cancer and not harm the rest of the body. They need to be cost effective, no side effects. So the regulatory bar keeps getting higher and higher, which means it's harder to discover the new drugs and
I guess that brings costs with it as well.
Exactly, yeah. Just the amount of steps you need to go to refine the drug to meet the higher bars across the therapeutic window is very, very difficult. So that's, it's made drug discovery a lot more challenging. And so this, scientists being innovative as they always are and love to be, set themselves a challenge and, commercially had to resolve this situation and start working better, smarter, more efficiently. And one of the key ways they identified to work more efficiently and increase the chances of discovering a drug and reducing the development timelines was to make the drug chiral. And this concept of chirality is the key USP of Liverpool ChiroChem Ltd. Our technology allows us to produce chirally pure components. And just to quickly,
I was going to say, for lay people, can you quickly explain? I know you've done it to me over the years, but can you quickly explain kind of what chirality means?
Yeah, so this is where I start to wave my hands again at you, Andrew. So essentially, when you think of chirality, you can think of your left and your right hands. They are what you call non-superimposable mirror images. And in layman's terms, that means your left hand only fits your left glove, and vice versa for the right hand and the right glove. So when you make a chiral drug, it means that the drug has forms that are essentially, they differ in the way your left hand differs from your right. They're made up of the same pieces. They're just arranged differently in three-dimensional space. And if you think of how a drug, works in the body, it's called the lock and key theory. So if you think of the drug as the key, that you swallow it, it gets absorbed, it gets distributed around your bloodstream, maybe to where it needs to go. And then that biological drug as the key needs to fit the biological pocket of the active site within your body to switch a biological process on or off, to kill a cell or to stop the pain receptor for a headache or whatever it may be, reduce the inflammation. So ever since 1972, I think it was, all drugs had to be administered in their chirally pure form, i.e. just the left hand or just the right hand. So chirality is not a new thing, but it's been identified as one of the key ways of increasing your chances of success in new drug development. Long story short, chiral drugs are more three-dimensional than non-chiral drugs, which are more two-dimensional. And if you want a really perfect and specific fit between your key and your lock, getting a perfect three-dimensional fit increases the likelihood of specificity of that key to that one and only that one lock in the body.
And the mirror image of that key wouldn't work.
The mirror image wouldn't work, and worse than that, Andrew, it might fit another lock in the body, and that's what happened with thalidomide. So the left-handed form of the thalidomide drug fits, the right receptor in the body to essentially cure morning sickness in the mother, but the right-handed form of the drug fits other receptors in the body, and unfortunately, in that instance, led to defects in the unborn child. So that was when the FDA stepped in and said, okay, all drugs need to be chirally pure. But now they've realized, you know what, actually, if we make more drugs chiral and make them 3D, we can essentially get to the endpoint faster. We can identify which key is the right one, which drug is right, from a smaller number of tests and possibilities and trials. So just to make that, to quantify that, Andrew, 60% of all drugs approved between 2000 and 2010 were chiral. Between 2010 and 2020, it's about 80%. It's steadily and consistently rising. So long story short, so the industry needs a larger and more reliable supply of chirally pure components in order to discover new drugs more efficiently and get their commercial returns on spend in R&D. So there's a growing market demand, and LCC has the technology to fulfill it. And I think I'm confident when I say we're already the world leading specialist in the supply of chirally pure components for small molecule drug discovery.
Fantastic. I mean, you said you formed in 2014, and again, you were probably one of the first companies that I came to visit when, and I remember coming to university, and I've kind of commented on this previously that, with startup businesses, you look for every opportunity you've got. And I remember I left you with a load of Deepbridge branded pens, and it was kind of, just to save you having to go out and buy new pens and things, which is kind of a flippant thing to say, but you've evolved massively since then, and I think, can you just talk us through kind of how you've evolved and how you've grown over that period?
Yeah, I mean, so when we started, it was genuinely well received, Andrew. We were strapped for cash. I think the 4 co-founders each put in a big proportion of their personal savings, which was only a few £1,000s each, but fresh out of university, you don't have a lot of money. Bank of Mum and Dad came to the support as well, and that essentially allowed us to produce I think it was about 50 products at the time that we could use to generate proof of concept sales. We did that, and then we were very fortunate so I handed in my notice at my job in the cancer research at RedX at the Royal Hospital, wrote the business plan, and the first person we pitched it to actually was Deepbridge Capital. And we were very fortunate. I was calling around all the local science parks and trying to find anyone that could give me some advice. I mean, I hate to reference Dragon's Den, but it was genuinely the only experience I had of anything, in terms of equity investment and venture capital. And that changed very drastically when I was given the e-card of Bernard Ross, the CEO and founder of Sky Medical Technology, a successful Deepbridge Capital investee company. And
Absolutely.
Bernard was very generous with his time and his knowledge, passing that on to a relatively local lad, not a Scouser, but a pie eater from Wigan. We could just about understand each other.
You're a fair bit younger than Bernard as well, Paul. I'll give you that.
Yeah, just a little bit. Yeah, I'm still keeping the hair enough to get away with that. But Bernard was great. Just explaining the difference between standard shares, preference shares. Different structures. What the options were. How to put the slide deck together. It was obvious to Bernard, we're all PhD scientists, we had a good technology, we understood the sector, we knew the scientific impact it could make, but how did we communicate the commercial opportunity to potential investors? That was something very new to me and the rest of the team. When I think back over the last 8 years, Andrew, just the list of people, I've mentioned Bernard, but I couldn't mention, we'd have to extend the podcast for another 20 minutes just to list all the people that have helped us. But, Deepbridge was the first equity investor through SEIS. It's fair to say if that wouldn't have happened, LCC wouldn't have lasted. The founder funds and Bank Mum and Dad was only going to last 6-12 months. We're eternally grateful for that. Since then, there's been 2 more venture capital companies, Protura Ventures and the MPIF Fund, the Northern Powerhouse Investment Fund through Maven and Enterprise Ventures that have come on since then. And what has that done? It's allowed us to take that proof of concept revenues and establish an end-to-end business operation. We have research and development in the UK, where we continually develop the chemical technologies that give access to these novel chiral components. We have an internal transfer of that chemical technology to our wholly owned subsidiary in China, where we carry out the gram scale production. It's transferred back again to the UK parent company, where we sell those components to pharmaceutical research organizations around the world. I think we have over 150 customers to date. We have recurring revenues from 8 of the top 20 pharmaceutical companies. I'll mention revenues in dollars because a big chunk, I think over 50% of our revenues are in the US.
And you're a multinational company, and dollars are the multinational currency. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, actually we're shortlisted for the BioNow Export of the Year award. So keep your fingers crossed for that one in a couple of weeks. And that's because greater than 95% of our revenues in 2021, which is over $1 million, was export. 95% of export revenues. So hopefully we can scale that up and be eligible for the Queen's Award in a couple of years' time. Absolutely. If we can get over that 10 million threshold.
Absolutely, and I think it's again, it's You talked about kind of those initial conversations with Bernard and what have you, and I guess that's kind of where we always pride ourselves in coming in, whether it be through Bernard, through our other people that we work with, and it's about helping great technologies kind of get that foothold to commercially succeed and grow. And I think that's the key thing. And I think, again, I remember when we first talked, and you look at kind of our investment criteria, and one of those key things of our investment criteria is companies have got to be globally scalable. And I think very quickly you showed that that's exactly where your market was, and is absolutely central to that.
Yeah, and that was both the opportunity and the challenge, wasn't it, Andrew?
Absolutely.
It wasn't one of those businesses that you could just do your proof of concept within a 50-mile radius, of where you operate from. From day one, we had to go to a global customer base in a highly regulated, highly established supply chain within the life science sector. So it was never going to be easy. It always needed scale, even before it had started. And so the barrier to entry for a company like LCC, or any company trying to break into the life science supply chain, is very, very high, but especially when it's a physical product that you produce. If we're helping people with artificial intelligence tools, which are having a big impact in drug discovery and virtual screening, you don't need all that infrastructure, the labs, the people, the equipment, the specialist equipment. You're always going to need millions of pounds to prove the concept of the business. And I'm very grateful to Deepbridge and the investors for really taking the time to look behind the slide deck and really understand that. I think that's the benefit of working with specialist sector specific funds. If you didn't have the sector experience, if you didn't have people like Savas within your organization, you wouldn't be able to do that due diligence and look your stakeholders in the eye and tell them that this is truly the case, and it does need that significant upfront investment.
And it's also understanding the processes, the hurdles you've got to go over, the timescales involved. That's a massive thing in your kind of world as well. So that's great. I guess kind of within that, that journey you've been on, are there any particular highlights where you've kind of gone, actually, we're onto something here, or that's been really, really cool, or kind of, or anything like that?
Yeah, it's a great question, Andrew. To be honest, I mean, if you think about our reason for being, our raison d'etre, it's all about, helping drug discovery, right? Yep. So making sales is great, but, over the last couple of years, we've started to make, instead of selling individual components, we did a sale to one of the top 10 pharma companies last year of over 1,000 components in one sale. And they put that into a library, and they've taken the components, designed the drug samples, they've screened it. And, when you get that email, saying, Paul, FYI, we've got multiple hits of new potential drugs by using your components, that's really what it's all about.
Massive validation.
Yeah, it's just, that really is, a day to remember. And that's happened a couple of times over the last 12 months, which is fantastic. So you kind of have to think of our initial sales as seed sales, really. We're making money on the seeds, but, every time we sell a family of these components, they're used by our customer, they're screened, and they get a certain number of hits. And that's, we have the ability then, to support them with larger quantities, with near-neighbor analogs of the components that they need to fine-tune the properties and increase that selectivity and specificity to the biological target, and minimize those off-target effects, which is a 10-year process. On average, it still takes about 10 to 12 years to go from that initial day when you get that email to it being on, actually,
on the shelves, if you like.
A pill on the shelves that just helping, save people's lives and quality of life.
Fantastic. I mean, again, that must be massive validation to kind of what you're doing, and that kind of, just not beyond the kind of commercial aspects, the kind of the impact that you're having in terms of, again, solving real life issues. So we touched on, obviously you've got the wholly owned subsidiary in China, etc. I mean, you effectively, you are running a multinational business. Kind of what's kind of been your experience of that? Kind of what's your views on that? What kind of challenges have you faced? What kind of opportunities does that bring? What the highlights of that as well?
Another great question, Andrew. I think that's possibly also the other highlight, because for me, one of the big motivations for starting the company, at the time, jobs weren't plentiful for PhD chemists, and scientists in the sector. I'd been fortunate enough to spend 12 months in AstraZeneca as an industrial placement student, and they sponsored my PhD. I couldn't get a job with them. They weren't hiring anybody at the time, so I couldn't take it personally. But that was another motivation for me to be able to bring more and more people and create more job opportunities within this amazing sector that I wanted to stay a part of, and also to be able to build a team. I mean, rugby was my passion when I was a youngster. My brother played professionally in the Super League for Wigan Warriors and other clubs. Fortunately, I didn't go down that path. I'd be a lot more battered and bruised. You take some beatings in the commercial arena, the entrepreneurial arena, but they're more
nothing
mental
quite as physical as that. Yeah.
But yeah, just building that team, because the cultural side of it, I think communication is so critical, as you very well know, and are very well versed and educated in, Andrew. It's central to your important role at Deepbridge, and I always saw that as an opportunity for myself. I wasn't the best. I can quite confidently say I was the worst scientist of the four co-founders. One being a professor who worked for a guy that won the Nobel Prize. So again, I'm not going to take that.
I was going to say, don't take it too harshly.
But I was the worst scientist, but possibly the best communicator of the three. And being able to communicate, a very technical thing that you do to a very diverse set of stakeholders, it is quite challenging. And also, when you have a vision for a company, the vision was very simple: to accelerate small molecule drug discovery through the provision of these chirally pure components that accelerate the process. It was that being able to communicate that vision to a wide range of stakeholders and share it with the team and get them as passionate as I am about it, was something that, I've doubted myself, or I continue to doubt myself over a lot of things, but I knew in my heart of hearts that that was something I could do. It was maybe an advantage of having a working class upbringing and just being in a place in the Northwest of high community spirit, and it was something that I kind of relished and saw that opportunity. We started with 4 people, Andrew, and we're now about 20 people in the UK, 40 people in China, and an international customer base. And speaking financially, with the accountants, the solicitors, the customers, I've really enjoyed the business development side of it as well, I have to say.
And what have the kind of challenges been with kind of running a business or overseeing a business in China, particularly, I guess you've not really traveled out there over the last 2 years?
Yeah, that's a very good point, Andrew. I mean, we were fortunate in the sense that our operations manager in the UK is much more IT savvy than I am, and he pushed for us to go on the cloud-based system and with Microsoft Teams 12 months before COVID hit. So we were already set up with that. But yeah, I haven't been to visit my 40 colleagues in China now since December 2019. So I went just before the pandemic started. I used to go about 3 times a year.
We won't blame you as a super spreader, Paul. Don't worry.
No, yeah, I was concerned about that actually. I was thinking, oh my goodness, if the first case is in Wigan, then they're going to pin this down quite quickly. But no, I think the first cases were in January, weren't they? So
I think you're good. I think you're good.
I'll not blame myself for that. But yeah, that I talking about the importance of communication and sharing the vision and the passion for the business. Well, I'm trying my best to show how passionate I am about LCC over this call, but it's not easy to sustain that with people on an 8-hour time difference, culturally different, a bit of a language barrier. They're speaking English, I'm not speaking Chinese, and so again I take the blame for that. But Yeah, that's been one of the hardest thing to manage. But again, when you have to just do your best in the situation that you're in. So we've done very specific things to address that. We have regular video calls with our team. We fully utilize the benefits of the MS Teams softwares. We're already cloud-based, but setting up the dedicated Teams channels between different departments, so interdisciplinary, interdepartmental communication, is a lot easier. Also, it's easier for us to communicate using the Teams chat because you can translate the text in real time. So actually, as nice as it is to see people, the most effective communication is through the chat.
Because
we
you don't have to worry about language, etc. It's done for you. Yeah, absolutely.
And just little things that you can do, just changing your working hours a little bit to increase more overlap between the 2 working days. And so I think where there's a will, there's a way. But I'm really hoping that the policies change in China in the coming months. I feel very sorry for anyone that has family, split between the East, China, and the West. They're having to quarantine for either 2 or 4 weeks every time you do a trip out there is really not easy.
That is absolutely, I can imagine, and particularly for family, but as you said, but for you as well, I'm sure you're itching to get out there as soon as you can. And
absolutely.
So kind of looking to the future, kind of what are your hopes or objectives or ambitions for, say, the next 12 months and then maybe slightly beyond that as well?
I think in a word, Andrew, it's scale. I think, we've proven the concept of the business now. We've got, a customer base, greater than 50% of our customers are returning customers. That proves that they're happy with the quality of the product that we provide to them. There are 8,000 potential customers for LCC to sell its products to. So 150 customers is great, but it's not. It's definitely there's room to grow there. So we've made 3,000 products to date, which sounds like a lot, but we've designed over 1 million, and there are 10 to the 64 possibilities for us to target. So there aren't enough atoms on the planet to make all the potential components to go into drugs. So it really is about it working smartly.
So how do you then? Okay, that's a great kind of follow-up. How do you focus that then? Is that based on need or demand of the pharma companies, or
yes,
how do you,
it's very much customer-led. So what we do is, Andrew, we designed or enumerated 1 million products that we could access, we could synthesize using the chemical technologies that we've developed. But then you need to overlay the product specification and the molecular specification of those products, 1 million products we designed, with the molecular product specification requirements of what the research community needs. Looking at the different ways they screen the libraries, the different ways they piece the components together, overlaying those. Any procurement is about specification at the end of the day, right? And just overlaying what we can make with what the market needs. And obviously, when you're talking about millions, billions, trillions of possibilities, that the smarter you can, the better you can get at that design. The design is absolutely key, because if we make the wrong products, it doesn't matter how efficiently we made them, they're going to sit there gathering dust on the shelves.
Absolutely, and I know you've dialed in today from your new offices in the Albert Dock in Liverpool, the iconic Albert Dock. So again, that must be a nice kind of step forward for the business, kind of out of the university space and now into not only great office space but an iconic building as well.
Yeah, it really is inspiring. Sometimes you just need to clear your head, and just having a walk around this iconic area is quite inspiring. And when we have a growing customer base now, the world's opening up for face-to-face visits again. So we hosted a couple of really important meetings for us over the last couple of weeks that have gone very well. And we didn't have to spend 45 minutes waiting for the customer to find a car park at the university, as happened to you, Andrew, a few times in the past. So yeah, and little things like that, they make a difference at the end of the day. And 2022 is a big year for us in terms of scaling the business, but I think 23 could be equally transformative if we're successful in all our endeavors this year, Andrew. I think it's really time, to say, okay, we're not a university spin-out company anymore.
Absolutely.
We're a high-tech, global organization, and we need premises to reflect that. So hopefully in 2023, we'll be moving into purpose-built facilities within the Northwest.
Brilliant. I mean, a massive step forward. I think, as you alluded to there, you're way beyond being a university startup now. You are absolutely a multinational company which is producing great things. You referenced rugby earlier. Kind of, we like on these things just to give kind of our listeners and our viewers just kind of a little bit of insight into the people behind the companies as well. Kind of what are your interests away from work?
Yeah, so rugby was a great passion following my brother. I mean, my father was a professional player for St. Helens, my brother for Wigan, who, if you know your rugby, are kind of arch
That's
enemies.
Crossing the divide, surely.
It's kind of like what Liverpool, Everton in football, or possibly Liverpool United. So we'll not get into the football just now. I don't want to gloat too much as a Liverpool fan, but we've won our first of possibly 4 titles this year, so I do like my football.
We'll edit that bit out. We'll edit that bit out, Paul. That's fine.
I wouldn't blame you. But sport was a big part of my childhood growing up. Golf was another really big one. I just loved my time on the golf course. Again, not only do you get some exercise, some fresh air, but it's the communication side of it. Again, Andrew, coming through, it's a very social sport. You have a lot of time in between looking for your ball in the rough and walking to the next shot to speak to your colleagues and go to the 19th hole afterwards. And
I guess it clears your head as well. You're a busy man running a business here, running a business in China, etc. You probably need that headspace just to clear thoughts and get some fresh air.
And I don't mind speaking publicly about it, Andrew. I've had a few health issues over the last couple of years, and I think with the benefit of hindsight, when you're passionate about something, you can take it to the extreme, right? And maybe I did push it a little bit too hard, and I basically stopped playing golf and stopped a lot of those hobbies. I started a family as well, which is another amazing thing that I wouldn't change for the world.
Also another stressful thing.
So I think everything other than divorce, I did all the other stressful things, moving house, getting married, having kids,
starting a business.
So but no, I think we're in 2022 now, and I think it's amazing that people are talking more openly about their mental health as well as their physical health. And I think in chemistry we talk about equilibrium, and it's essentially a balance really between a forwards and a reverse reaction. Well, it's the same in life. You need balance in your life, and absolutely anybody should work hard if they've got a passion to do something, but you have to find the right balance that works for you and the people around you really. And I think I've kind of learned from that now and found a bit more of a steady state, and it's much more of a team effort. I think in the early years, Andrew, it
was all on your shoulders, and
you take on a little bit more than possibly than you can sustain longer term, but it's not about that anymore now. It's about working smart for us now, and it's about the team. My job is to hire the right people and share the vision and get everybody working collectively to that vision. That's what I need to focus on over the next couple of years if we're going to scale this business and make the commercial returns that our investors deserve.
Well, you're already well on the way, so that's great. Last question we ask our guests is, if you're invited to the Deepbridge dinner party, what 3 guests would you like to bring, dead or alive, excluding friends and family, because obviously we don't upset anybody, but who would be your kind of 3 kind of dinner companions that you'd like to invite?
Well, you're definitely not going to invite me to any dinner parties if I answer this question, honestly. But I think it would go down the golf route,
Okay.
Andrew. I think it would be Jack Nicklaus, Tom Watson, Arnold Palmer, and I'd just sit there with a nice Californian Zinfandel and just
let them chat. Yeah,
just listen to their stories, the duel on the sands, and I just have a lot of respect for those three individuals as well. Just the top of what they did, but they all gave so much back to the game and to the wider community. Great role models in and outside of their sport, and you could say maybe it would be the same for tennis. That would be I wouldn't mind that dinner party either with Rafa, Nadal, and Djokovic.
Fair enough.
But I think the golfers just edge it on the class side of it for me. So.
I'm sure they've got a good few anecdotes to share as well. But
absolutely.
Yeah. Paul, thank you very much for your time today. Really appreciate it. I know you're mad busy. You've got a hell of a lot going on, and really appreciate your time. So thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you, Andrew, and thanks again for all the continued support from yourself and your colleagues at Deepbridge.
Great. Thanks, Paul. Thank you for joining us. If you have any topics you'd like us to discuss in future Deepbridge Discovery podcasts, please email us at discovery@deepbridgecapital.com. This podcast was brought to you by Deepbridge Capital LLP. Deepbridge is authorised and regulated by the Financial Conduct Authority. Please note that investments discussed are both illiquid and high risk and won't be suitable for all investors and should be considered as part of a diversified portfolio. The content of this podcast should not be construed as financial or taxation advice. We recommend investors seek appropriate professional financial advice. Any views expressed may no longer be current and may have already been acted upon.